Hey everybody, it's Bree here. Hello. I'm doing a little lesson on the whiteboard today. It's going to be focused on that and not me being in the camera. But the lesson today is going to be about trust and vulnerability and some things I picked up and learned. And as I was also giving advice to a client, that I think would be extremely helpful, valuable, and so I decided to share it today. The book that some of this information derives from, and really just the symbols that I'm going to use, which are just simply math symbols, but it comes from the book called The Four Types of People by Dr. Verna Price. And so I highly suggest that you get this book as a part of your library system. I'm sure you can order it on Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, or whatever. But shout out to Dr. Verna Price. I haven't seen you in a long time, but I hope all is well. But I wanted to just touch base on this and tie this into vulnerability and trust in some areas where you might actually figure out where you fit or don't fit or what has been a system or a cycle for you in the past. And my job as a life coach is to help people break their cycles, identify their cycles, and then break them. So anywho, just to go ahead and get started, because I want to get through this today, is there are different the book indicates that there are four types of people in our lives. Okay, you have your adders. Actually, I'm going to move this down just a little bit. You have your adders, your subtractors, your multipliers, and your dividers. Okay. So clearly, adders are people that add to your life. Subtractors are people that take away from your life in the negative sense. Multipliers are those who amplify or multiply you to quantify things to the next level for you. So these are like your mentors. These are like your good friends, parents, family members, people that are awesome in your life. These are people you need to stay away from. These are your mentors, those very few people that actually help you multiply and take quantum leaps in your life. And then you have the dividers. These are the people who cause division in your lives and are not good for you. And so the book talks about those different types of people in our lives. And I've used this particular concept with a few clients at work, and they've found it very helpful because it's a very easy, simple concept to understand. And so one of the things that I always ask my clients, and I'm just going to rewrite this on here a little more space, is where do they see themselves in the lives of others? Because I actually work with particularly men who have criminal thinking patterns. So I say it's easy for us to identify, some subtractors if we hang around people who are like using drugs or doing illegal activity in those dividers. And then we can easily identify those adders and those multipliers. But which one do you fall into in terms of those other people's lives, right? So it's always good to have that self perspective of, okay, it's great to know who to cut in or cut out your life and who to keep in, but sometimes you're the person that needs to be cut out of somebody's life. Let's keep it real, right? So as we were talking and having this discussion with this particular client, we weren't really talking about who needed to be cut or not needed to be cut necessarily. We were, but that wasn't the focus. The focus was him trying to figure out his cycle of why he keeps running into people that he wants to help, but they end up being like divisive or subtractors in his life, particularly around these two areas here. Okay, so he had a girlfriend and they were dated for a very short amount of time. And he's like, I felt like I needed to help her, so I would identify that as a rescuer. Right, we all got that in us in some aspect. So we have the rescuer position that we have. And he's like, I, tend to rescue people, then they end up kind of cutting me short or dissing me or something happens. And then, so I kind of broke this down for him as we were talking. So I said, if you notice, rescuers, and I think I spelled this wrong. Oops. Rewrite that. There we go. So rescuers have a tendency, because of their need to help other people and their need to feel empowered by helping other people, is that I would say there's two types of rescuers. There's ones that gravitate towards these people, okay? And then on this side, you have rescuers, or rescued, I should say, rescued, and they tend to gravitate towards these people, or they tend to be those kind of people, right? And so when I talked to him about this, I said, if you're a rescuer, you're typically gravitating towards someone who is a subtractor in your life or a divider. This is not always true, but in this particular situation, it was. I said, you have a tendency to rescue those who are subtracting or dividing from your life. And I told him the reason that he does this is because he puts his trust and his vulnerability in people who are subtractors or dividers. In his mind, he's just trying to help them. And have you been there? I'm sure you have been as well. Where you just see somebody who's in need, they're really eating up all your wisdom and knowledge, but really they need you more than you need them. And so you end up like opening up your heart to them a little bit and they betray your trust. Or they do something that is just, you're like, hold on, where did this behavior come from? I don't understand why you're acting like this all of a sudden. And so what I did was I explained to him, I said, as a rescuer, again, you are attracted to the subtractors and the dividers in your life because you put your trust in people. Okay. There's a difference. Okay. Are we supposed to trust people? In my opinion, no. We trust people's character and their behaviors based on repetition, but to trust someone's heart, yeah, no, the Bible even tells us to not do that. Please read scriptures on trust. We are to trust the Lord solely because He is the one who has a pure heart and He knows our heart. So we are supposed to trust Him with all of our heart, not our friends, our family, or even our spouses. It's true. It says it in the Bible. So you can read it for yourself. But anywho, what I noticed was that I drew like this little pie chart basically, little Pac-Man, right? And I said, when you get into a relationship with someone who you're trying to rescue, you have a tendency to trust the whole person. When in actuality, you're only supposed to trust this portion of it, this piece of the pie. But what happens is you end up trusting the whole person, thinking that something good is going to come out of this relationship because you have put in all this energy and effort into making them better. Okay, that is the false delusion that we create when we get into these type of friendships or relationships with significant others, where you're trying to help somebody out in their down season or whatnot, which is a good thing to do. It's not a bad thing. The problem is you end up putting your trust into an area that is not healed yet, right? You're trusting someone who is in need of healing, so it's not very wise to put your trust into what I would call the shaded or the darker part of someone's soul, right? If this was our heart and soul representation, this would be the part that's missing that you're trying to fix. And then you have these other portions of it that can't be trusted because they're not even aware of the stuff that they do. And what happens is, as a rescuer, you tend to trust the whole person. If I shaded this all in, it'd be like you trusting that person with your heart, which is a no-no. Now, on the other side, you have a rescued, which is also a form of rescuer, but these people are the adders and the multipliers in your life. These are the mentors. These are the really wise people that you have, the sages in your life, the elders probably in your life as well, and maybe even some young people. But these people here are typically the adders and the multipliers in your life if you are the rescuer type of person. And then they tend, because they're rescued, meaning they have been helped, they have gravitated to the next level, they have done something where they're not having this issue with their soul, is that they tend to be the adders and multipliers in your life, right? But they also don't trust you in a healthy way, right? They look at this and they say, I trust this part of you, right? I can see this part here that has been worked on. I can work with that. We're going to work with that. But as your coach, I'm going to keep this professional distance, or as your grandfather, or as your mother, or as your, or mentor, or whoever it is that's in your life that's giving you this wisdom. Maybe it's a business coach. Maybe it's your boss. Who knows? But whoever it is that's pouring into your life, they don't really trust you. They trust the fact that they see something in you that's going to elevate. Okay. So they again are they stay as adders and multipliers in your life because they have a healthy sense of being rescued versus being a rescuer. And they know how much they can trust you as a person, not your heart, but trust your actions, your repetitive actions, the things that you've done over and over again. So I wanted to share that with everybody today to kind of figure out, are you a rescuer or are you one of the rescued rescuers on this side where you have been helped and you've turned around and are now helping somebody else, being an adder or a multiplier in somebody's life. So just something to think about. It really made me ponder because it really opened up a door for our conversation about vulnerability and trust. And I said, again, vulnerability is not for everybody. It's for us to administer to others and to be vulnerable with ourselves and with God, but we're not to trust our vulnerability in the hands of another person. because we do not know the extent of their heart, where they've been healed or haven't been healed. So, even in marital relationships, and I can't really speak on this because I'm not married. However, I'm sure there will be some that can attest to, I trust my husband's actions up to a certain extent. Right. And that's general with everybody. You trust people up to a certain extent. I can trust you for being on time and being poised and being dressed for success. I can trust that you're always going to show up and show out, but I might not be able to trust you with my money, right? Because I don't know you in that area of your life. So little things like that. Like, we have to be cautious when we are choosing to trust others based on their character or their patterns, and we have to be cautious in choosing to who to be vulnerable with in particular seasons of our life. Just know that if you're choosing to be vulnerable, that imposes that you are at risk for something bad or good to happen. So vulnerability is always a 50-50 chance that your business will be put out on Front Street. Even if you trust the person, even if their secret's safe with you, the fact that you release it means it can be shared. So just keep that in mind. Just keep it real. We are in a age of technology where lots of things are not hidden anymore. So, so just keep that in mind. And so I just wanted to share that with everybody today. And one piece I want to add on here is that Proverbs 3:5 indicates that we are to trust the Lord with all of our heart. And one thing I can guarantee is that God is never going to subtract or divide or be divisive in your life. He's always going to add and multiply because He's a God of abundance. And so He's the only one with pure motives. He does not want to hurt you or harm you, but He does want to see you advance. And so, for the parts of your soul that are still darkened, that still need work, because we all have those areas, if you're struggling in an area, you can trust that God is going to amplify, multiply, or add something of His word to this part of your soul so that more of you can be healed, right? So we want more of this pie to be filled in and to be healed. So now we got two pieces of the pie that are being taken care of by God. And so when God does His mighty work on our hearts called salvation, this essentially is salvation, we begin to see our behaviors and our characteristics really become like Jesus. This is when you get, like, I would say 75% of the way. That's when you truly learn how to walk in love. That's when you've nipped some of those destructive behaviors that you've had in your life that maybe have been generational or whatever the case may be. Just know that God loves you so much that He has come already to rescue you, and He's always going to add and multiply to your life, and He's going to actually remove people that are subtractors and dividers. So you can trust Him with your heart. You can't trust everybody. Sometimes you can't even trust yourself. Let's be real. Right, we have a lot of work to do, and we have a lot of patterns and habits to break, and those are areas where we just can't trust ourselves, and that's just being honest and being vulnerable, right? But we can trust God that He will take care of us and that He will show us exactly what we need, when we need it, and how to go about doing that. So with that, I say peace to you, and I hope that this lesson was valuable and that you can identify yourself as a rescuer or rescued, and that you may know what steps you need to take next. Talk to you soon. Ciao.